everybody, it's Greg Cockrell. I am here with my friend John Kleiman of the record label Jingle Bell Rock Music. And that's, of course, the label that keeps the memory and the spirit and the music of Bobby Helms alive. And John, it's great to have you with me this afternoon. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Sorry for the wobbling on the computer here. I had to move it a little bit.
That's okay. That's okay. I haven't talked to you really since we collaborated last year on the great project that your label undertook to record and release the iconic Bobby Helms Christmas song, Jingle Bell Rock, in dozens of languages by great artists all over the world. And I was just so proud of the way that turned out. Congratulations. I hope you were happy with the outcome too.
Oh, it was great. We had some great talent, and all those people are wonderful. And Helmut has worked to help get the Jingle Bell Rock around the world song out. So it turned out really well.
Yeah, it
Really
really
happy
did.
with it.
Helmet Wolf, of course, you're speaking of Wolf Entertainment, which distributed that worldwide, and will be distributing other music that we'll be talking about too. I didn't know to talk about some new things that are happening on your label. This really was kind of a surprise to me, and I want to talk to you about it today. I didn't know that you wrote the words and the music to a really powerful song that Bobby Helms wound up recording. Please tell me how you came to write such a song. First of all, a song like Soldier's Prayer, and how did Bobby end up recording it?
Well, I've been writing poetry most of my life. I'm originally from Greenfield, Indiana, which is the home of James Whitcomb Riley.
Hmm,
And James Whitcomb Riley wrote the Raggedy Man. He
okay,
was known as a Hoosier poet.
okay,
And if you're in school in Hancock County, you automatically enter into poetry contests every year during Riley Days. So when I was younger, I started writing poetry and continued to do that. Owned a part of a company called Happy Thoughts. And we sold plaques with inspirational verses and poetry around the world. I wrote Soldier's Prayer, the poem, back in 1984.
hmm.
And I didn't meet Bobby until 1988.
Oh,
And
really?
that's when I was working on a film project.
I see.
And uh, became very close friends with him and started doing management for him and everything. And we were in a studio doing a recording session in 1995, I believe. And we're one short of having enough songs for the album he was putting out. And he came over to me. He said, "You remember that soldier's prayer that you told me about?" And Bobby came up to my apartment, and I had a Roland keyboard. And we sat at the keyboard, and this was several years before, and kind of tinkered around to come up with a tune for it. And I recorded that on a little cassette. And I did the intro. The intro is actually one that people might recognize because it's from the Ballad of the Green Beret,
Right. Okay.
in case it sounded familiar.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he changed some of the musical part of the song because his voice could go higher
Hmm.
than what I originally wrote it.
Right.
So when you hear him going for higher notes, I had him at a lower level
Right.
because I didn't know that Bobby was ever going to record it.
Wow.
And so I said, yes, I said, I can go home and get that cassette and bring it back to the session. So I brought it to the session. He practiced it a couple of times, had the band in there and we recorded. And we sold that through Record Mart back in the year, back in
Sure.
the days,
I remember that.
and National Record Mart back then.
Huh?
And also sold it, made it available as a fundraiser for some groups like American Legion
Yeah.
and those kind of organizations who are using funds for good causes that they might have going on.
Sure.
So that's how I introduced him to it. It had been available through KTEL International as a download, but
Mhm.
it's never been available on streaming before.
Hmm.
And I'm anxious to get it out there and share it with the world.
That's really interesting. Can you imagine a younger John Kleiman if somebody had said to you when you first wrote that, "Hey, one of these days, uh, a big star like Bobby Helms is going to record this song of yours"? You probably would have been pretty surprised.
I would have never believed it would happen. In fact, when you're around someone who is a celebrity, you forget they're a celebrity.
Yeah.
And he just was a great friend. And we traveled together and
Wow.
have a lot of stories that I could tell, but most of them I probably shouldn't.
Yeah, right. Not on this format. It's a
Because
family show.
they're about other musicians.
Right. I understand those kind of stories, believe me. Well, as the title of the song implies, Soldier's Prayer, it's very powerful, very emotional, and I'm sure it's going to have all kind of appeal. It already has, as you said, to all types of veterans groups and people who have any idea about what it's like to be a soldier.
Or to have family and kids in particular who are
Yeah.
serving overseas. And
Yeah.
that's a pretty common factor right nowadays.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks. And so let's just go over this then again. It's going to be released on your label, Jingle Bell Rock Music, on April 1st, right?
That is right.
And we'll have our friend Helmut Wolf again at Wolf Entertainment. We'll be distributing this on all digital platforms around the world. So it'll be the first time really that everybody could have a chance to have access to it, won't it?
That is true. And as I mentioned to you earlier, the poem actually was first brought out into the light when we sold it to the Army Air Force Exchange Service.
Oh,
And it was in this format.
that's beautiful.
And then we sold them to Zondervan's and a lot of inspirational bookstores as a framed verse.
Yeah.
And then the cassette came out with Bobby, and it was very successful back in the day.
That's really powerful. That's beautiful. Well, nice work, man. You never cease to amaze me, John. You're always got some good projects going on over there at your label, and I know there's other news coming up from your label that I'll be talking about in the future. But thanks for doing this, and thanks for keeping the spirit of Bobby Helms alive, and thanks for putting some great music out there. The world can always use more great music. Thank you.
Well, Greg, thank you for helping me, and miss Bobby every day, but
Yeah.
the world can remember him through his music.
That's absolutely correct. It's a nice thing to know he'll always live on in projects like this. Thank you, John. It's always a pleasure talking to you, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
My child is gone.